Hey, what's up there, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer55551, and I am back with a My 2 cent Nintendo/gaming video for the week of December 15th to the 21st. I'm hoping all of you are gearing up for the holidays, regardless if you celebrate Christmas, Hanukkah, which Hanukkah is my holiday, I celebrate that one, or Kwanzaa, apologize if I'm not saying the name correctly, or just, spending time with friends and families and relaxing for the holidays. So hopefully you guys are gearing up. Hopefully you got the gifts that you need and all that stuff, and hopefully you don't have to do any last minute shopping and fight for a parking spot or anything like that, though. And well, for this week we got a couple stories to cover, though, including one that's kind of gaming related but not 100% related, and that has to do with a comment that I think the actor Henry Cavill, if I'm saying his name correctly, I apologize if I'm not, made about in regards to Fandom, which I'll get to that one though. Plus, there are some comments in regards of DLC, 2 from Nintendo and 1 from the Outer Worlds, which definitely a game I would recommend you pick up if you're, regardless of what system you have and all that stuff. We've also heard a report about an issue regarding the 1 terabyte micro SD card, and for those who are planning to pick that one up for the Nintendo Switch. We also have about, in terms of Rebellion, bringing more more entries in the Sniper Elite series, particularly the Zombie Army Trilogy, to be exact. We'll get to that one as well. And, of course, comments in regards of the future of EA with Star Wars, including an article from VentureBeat that I don't exactly 100% agree with them on that. And speaking of Star Wars, though, obviously I'll be going on Saturday to see The Rise of Skywalker. I'm fully aware about the reviews on Rotten Tomato and Metacritic, and so far I've seen the reaction has been pretty much mixed at best. In fact, as of the recording of this video, last time I checked Rotten Tomato, it was 58% by critics, which according to Rotten Tomato standards is considered rotten, but so far it's gotten 86% based on the audience response. So this one, I think, is going to be as controversial, possibly as controversial as The Last Jedi was. I didn't hate that movie, but I didn't think it was perfect either. But either way, I'm going to see it on Saturday. I'll give my thoughts about that after I see the movie, plus along with my thoughts on the Mandalorian that I've been seeing on Disney Plus, and of course my review of Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. So that one will be sort of a Star Wars related one, to be exact. So look forward to that one. Try to film that one on Saturday and get it up by Tuesday, though. Alright, but before we get to our main My 2 cent part, we'll look at some of the quick My 2 cents to sort of stories that did caught my attention, but I'm not going to go into a huge amount of details on that one. First one is the fact that apparently the Switch version of Rune Factory 4 has been delayed towards next year. It was supposed to come out this year, but unfortunately doesn't seem to be that's the case. For those who may not be familiar, the Rune Factory is sort of at least from what I've seen so far, a spin-off of the Harvest Moon series. It's part farming and part like a venture RPG type of a game, though. I played a little bit on the Nintendo 3DS, so it is a little unfortunate it's gotten delayed, though, but hopefully they'll use the extra time to iron out some areas and all that stuff. And I'm looking forward to when Rune Factory 5 comes to the Nintendo Switch. We also learned that Monolith Soft is hiring more people, especially for the upcoming release of Breath of the Wild 2. Ever since that announcement at E3, though, it's been kind of quiet about that one and all that stuff. So it's very interesting that they're hiring more people. They not only have that game, but also a remake of the first Xenoblade Chronicles as well. Here's a hoping that Xenoblade Chronicles X gets remade, excuse me, as well as the Nintendo Switch. Not to mention Nintendo, I would love to see a remake or sequel to The Last Story and Pandora Tower. Thank you very much. So Monolith Soft is certainly hiring more employees and all that. We also learned that apparently people are hacking Fallout 76 and putting NPCs in there, and which is supposedly causing the game to crash and all that stuff. Supposedly Bethesda responded to it, but it adds more to the problem with Fallout 76, and that game has been I personally think it's been a disaster for basically Bethesda in general. And unfortunately, the sad news we learned is that the studio that helped redesign Sonic for the upcoming Sonic the Hedgehog movie is closing, which is, that's kind of sad though. I mean, for that to happen to a studio and all that stuff, I wish the employees best of luck. I hope they are able to find new jobs and so forth. So it's very unfortunate to hear that that studio is closing and all that. Excuse me. Alright, with the quick My Two Cent part now done, we'll get started with our first part of our My Two Cent video, and this one has to do with the announcement of Zombie Army Trilogy coming to the Nintendo Switch. Now, I'll be honest with you, I enjoy the Sniper Elite series though. I enjoy the whole World War II setting. That's always been a favorite part of history I like to study and all. And I just like the gameplay. The whole idea of you could either go in stealth or go in, or mostly its focus is on stealth, especially when using the sniper rifle. And the series is also famous for its famous kill cam to just see where that bullet hits on the body and all that stuff. So it's always been a sort of a, in my view, kind of a guilty pleasure type of a game. But a spin-off to the series that I've also enjoyed as well has been the Zombie Army Trilogy. The best way I could sum up Zombie Army Trilogy is I think kind of like, it kind of has sort of a World War II / grindhouse feel to it. Something like you would see off of a Quentin Tarantino movie. Good example would be when the two grindhouse movies came out. I think Death Proof and Planet Terror. Remember those from Quentin Tarantino, and they showed off those fake trailers though, like Machete, which ultimately turned into an actual movie, to one that, as weird as this is, this one's actually, I saw this one, it's called Nazi Girls of the SSS. I mean, it's weird. Let's just say it's weird though. But basically, that's the best way to sum it up, is that it's a World War II with a grindhouse feel to it and all that stuff, and it is actually kind of fun and all that, even though the game can be played up to 1 to 4 players though. Well, apparently it seems along with the upcoming Zombie Army 4 that's going to come out on February 20th to the PS4 and Xbox One, apparently Switch owners will be getting a port of Zombie Army Trilogy. That's 3 campaigns with 15 missions, all coming to the Nintendo Switch. In an article on Nintendo Life magazine, again, links in the description down below, it reads that, quote, UK developer and publisher Rebellion has revealed that it's bringing Zombie Army Trilogy to Nintendo Switch in 2020. The game, which originally launched on PC, PS4, and Xbox One back in 2015, has players taking part in a frenzy undead shooting action across 3 story campaigns and an unforgiving horde mode. It features some similarities to Rebellion's Sniper Elite series, but has a more action-focused feel to it and is playable either alone or in co-op up to 4 players. The Switch version will come with everything previously released on other consoles, as well as 2 to 4 player local wireless play, motion controls, Pro Controller, and HD Rumble support, and even support for Switch Friends invite system. And according to the PR, it reads, quote, "In the dying flames of World War II, Hitler has unleashed one final holy gamble. A legion of undead super soldiers that threaten to overwhelm the whole of Europe. Take on the unrelenting horde of harrowing enemies, from zombie soldiers to armed skeletons and fire demons to chainsaw-wielding elites, before facing the demonic dictator himself." Yes, you actually fight a demonic or zombify Adolf Hitler and all that stuff. So it's to see them bring this game over is really nice though. I mean, I played the one on the PS4 though, and I thought it was a fun game, and to see this one bringing over to the Nintendo Switch is certainly nice. I do have a question, however, in regards of them claiming that they're going to bring everything over. Are we talking about bringing everything over as in everything's going to be in the one cartridge, or are we talking about basically they'll bring the game over, they'll have the cartridge, but it's one of those you may have to download the rest, or God forbid, I think this is the worst thing I've seen developers done, they'll sell you an empty box with a download code or anything like that. So It's still unclear about what they mean by everything, at least how I see it. But nevertheless, I am pleased that they are bringing this over to the Nintendo Switch. I'm looking forward to playing this on the Nintendo Switch as well, especially in the meantime, since right now Sniper Elite version 2, or Sniper Elite 2 and 3 are currently on the Nintendo Switch. I do hope it does well enough that if this is possible, and I do mean if this is a big if it's possible though, that they could bring Sniper Elite 4 or even Zombie Army 2. Of course, we'll have to see how well Zombie Army Trilogy does on the Nintendo Switch, but I do hope they do bring it over. And as far as release dates go, right now the only thing we have at this moment is a release date of supposedly, let's see, basically the first half of 2020, so we don't have an official concrete release date, all that stuff. But so that's what we have to run with at this time. So overall, I'm glad they're bringing Zombie Army Trilogy to the Nintendo Switch. I'm looking forward to trying out that game again when it comes to the Nintendo Switch as well. Not to mention, I'm looking forward to Zombie Army 4 when that comes out. I believe, what's that release date again? Let me check that one more time. The release date for Zombie Army 4 is supposedly February 24th, 2020. What's my birthday to be exact? So looking forward to picking up that game, and I'm hoping that if it does well enough, and if Zombie Army Trilogy does well on the Nintendo Switch, and if it's possible they could port it over, I would like to see Zombie Army 4 and Sniper Elite 4 come to the Nintendo Switch if that happens. So, like I said, great that they're bringing Zombie Army Trilogy to the Nintendo Switch. Looking forward to that game when it comes out, supposedly the first half of 2020. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to get to part 2, and this one has to do with a report in regards of the the 1 terabyte, 1 terabyte micro SD cards that have for the Nintendo Switch that may be having a defect issue. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of our My 2 Cent video for this week. And for this one, we're going to be taking a look at what apparently might be, maybe, an issue in regards of the 1 terabyte micro SD cards for the Nintendo Switch. Now, recently, SanDisk has released a 1 terabyte micro SD cards. I remember picking mine up on a Black Friday. I think it might have been or earlier, and it definitely comes in handy, especially if you're looking to get the most out of your Nintendo Switch in terms of storage space and so forth. Although some have looked at maybe the 500 gigabytes and so on and all that stuff. And let's also not forget though that the Nintendo Switch supposedly supports up to a 2 terabyte micro SD card. Yet that hasn't come out yet though, but it's probably only a matter of time before we get to when we start hearing about a 2 terabyte micro SD card. Although I expect that will be pricey, but I do believe at some point the price, when that does come out, eventually the price will come down. Well, apparently it seems those who may have purchased a 1 terabyte micro SD card are supposedly claiming that there are issues of there could be a defect. Now, it's unclear if the defect is on SanDisk or Nintendo, or it could be a mixture of both, or whatever the case may be, but some people have reported that they've had some issues with their with these cards in regards of putting them into the Nintendo Switch. In 2 articles, the first one from WCCF Tech, I'll read the update part in a minute, but the article reads that, quote, an unlucky Switch owner claims that his freshly purchased 1 terabyte, the article points it as 1 gigabyte, that's pretty much a typo and all that stuff, micro SD card has melted his Nintendo Switch. A reported on the Nintendo Switch Reddit proclaimed Switch owner Nervous Zen, if I apologize if I'm not saying the name correctly, claims that his brand new SanDisk Extreme Plus 1 terabyte though micro SD card has burned a hole in his Nintendo Switch. I thought that I was getting a good deal on Black Friday when I bought a 1 terabyte micro SD XC card, he writes. Apparently not, it melted the Switch. First time I turned it on after installing, it was off as a required. Switch is at version 9.1.0. According to the unlucky Switch owner, the card in question is a SanDisk Extreme Plus 1 terabyte micro SD XC UHSI memory card, which normally sells for more than $400 USC. Excuse me. They included the image of the melted card and all that stuff. I smelled the magic smoke, he later added. Touched it barely with my finger and it was massively hot. I popped it out of the SD card adapter with the card, which was luckily on hand as I was just installing the card. I think it might have prevented worse damage. If what Nervous Zen, again, I apologize, I'm not saying this correctly, right, is correct, his Switch was turned off when installing the card and it was left in the Switch for roughly 20 seconds. The Switch was off. It is required to be off when installing an SD card. When I turned it on, it didn't even show the Nintendo logo. I soon smelt what can only be described as burnt transistors and melting plastic. Flipped it back around and touched the slot. The person writes some idea and then went into panic mode to pop it back out. Based on the damage on the card in the photo that was posted, the damage might very well be caused by the Switch instead of the card itself. Whether this issue has been caused by a defective Nintendo Switch or a micro SD card remains to be seen. He points out that SanDisk has been contacted and all that stuff. It's worth pointing out they also updated the article, which, according to them, they contacted Nintendo, and Nintendo is taking care of the situation. According to the updated part, though, it says, quote, I called Nintendo as they opened this morning. He updated his initial post. Although my Switch is out of warranty, she said that the Switch will be taken care of by Nintendo. I asked if it was a known issue, and she replied it should never have happened, whether the card is faulty or not, and it therefore will be taken care of whether or not the Switch was still under the limited warranty. I was instructed to hold on to the picture, the SD card, and the Switch until I received further instructions. From there, I offered them the picture, but she said she did not want them at this time. I'm still waiting to hear from SanDisk. I'm sending the Switch in tomorrow after getting packaged materials. I was told 2 to 4 weeks ETA. I have given SanDisk further information, but still waiting a more conclusive response. Now, some people have posted on this article claiming that it pointed out, saying that the card could have been that this could be fake, that the card that SanDisk doesn't make a supposedly an Extreme Plus rarity and all that stuff. So take it however it is. I also want to point out though that I've had a SanDisk 1 terabyte micro SD card in my Nintendo Switch, and I have not ran into the same issue as this person has. I mean, it hasn't overheated, it hasn't done anything like that or anything like that. Hell, I've had my Nintendo Switch since March of 2017 when the Switch officially came out, and I haven't ran into any problems like this whatsoever. So, that being said, I won't ignore the fact that there are several possibilities. There is a possibility the Switch could be defected. There's also a possibility that the micro SD card could be defected. It's also possible he may have gotten a fake one, to be exact. So there are many possible scenarios of how this could play out. As far as it being widespread, although other people have reported it as well, at least according to what Nintendo Soup has had, and some other people have reported, have come forward saying that they've ran into a similar problem, only they've ran into a problem with a SanDisk 256 gigabyte ultra micro SDXC UHS1 after they've installed it and all that stuff. One person says, more than a year of being used. So it doesn't seem like the 1 terabyte is the only victim here. That being said, it doesn't sound like at this time that it's as widespread and all that stuff. Like I mentioned before, I've had a 1 terabyte micro SD card into my Nintendo Switch and I haven't ran into any issues or anything like that. That being said, though, I do think it is an issue that Nintendo and I think SanDisk need to look into, whether or not there are issues of defaults or whether or not, or whatever the case could be, though. Again, it's possible this person could have gotten a fake micro SD card and all that stuff, so there's always that possibility, but still, nevertheless, I do think this is an issue that Nintendo and SanDisk should look into, but it doesn't sound like it's as widespread as it seems to be. So overall, I'm hopefully this person gets this Nintendo Switch fix. I do think it is, and like I said, yes, I think SanDisk and Nintendo should take a look into the situation to see if this is a defect, whether it's on their side, or whether it's on Nintendo's side, or SanDisk's side. But like I said earlier, doesn't sound like at this time it's as widespread or anything like that. And like I said, I've had a 1 terabyte micro SD card in my Nintendo Switch, and I haven't had any issues with it whatsoever. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to get to part 3. In this one, we got a couple of announcements in regards of upcoming DLCs. 2 for 2 Nintendo games, and 1 from a third party, aka The Outer Worlds to be exact. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 3 of our My Two Cent video, and for this one, we're going to be taking a look at some DLCs for several upcoming games, including The Outer Worlds, Luigi's Mansion 3, and the Zelda spin-off Cadence, Cadence of Hyrule. Again, I apologize for not saying the name correctly, though. Alright, so when it comes to DLCs, sometimes there are ways that it can be done the right way, and there are ways that it can be done the wrong way. We've seen cases where some developers have kind of abused the practice of DLCs, such as pre-order this to get this DLC and all that stuff, so there have been cases like that. But every once in a while, we've seen developers have handled DLCs properly. One example is, of course, CD Projekt Red, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, and a good example of a game that not only was a complete game, but the developers were able to offer basically free DLCs for people to play, and including 2 expansion packs to come with it. That to me is a great example of how DLCs should be done. Other examples were like Splatoon and Splatoon 2 with offered free content update, and also a paid DLC for Splatoon 2, a brand new single player mode. To Hyrule Warriors as another good example of DLCs being handled there, where the game had full content and it was a complete game, and they added a little bit more to it and so forth. So as far as DLCs, there are ways that the DLCs can be handled though. So it looks as though we're going to be getting more DLCs for the 3 games that I mentioned earlier. 2 for Nintendo and 1 from developer Obsidian, which is now has been purchased by Microsoft, for The Outer Worlds, and that certainly is a plus for me, to be exact. We'll start off with the first one, and this one has to do with the Luigi's Mansion 3, and this one is in regards of more multiplayer DLC coming to Luigi's Mansion 3. According to the Nintendo press release, it says, quote, Luigi's Mansion 3 Multiplayer Pack Part 1 will arrive by April 30th, 2020. The DLC includes 3 new mini-games for the multiplayer Screen Pack mode. It also introduced 3 new outfits for Luigi, which matches the floor theme, and any new theme ghosts in the competitive Scarescaper mode. And as a special bonus for those who purchase the DLC, players will receive an in-game Proton Pup light called the Flashlight Type P. Players can use this during story mode or on Scarescape mode. They also point out that they'll have a multiplayer pack part 2 by July 31st, 2020. And supposedly the areas they have is a medieval area and shows Luigi with wearing a knight's outfit. It had a disco area with Luigi wearing his like funky disco outfit and sort of with a funky hairdo to begin with, and a ancient Egypt one where you have Luigi sort of mummified and all that stuff. I mean, for those who may like the multiplayer mode, though, this certainly might be a good thing and all that stuff. I played the Scarescape mode on it, and while it was fun, I felt there were limitations with it, especially since this is a game that feels more like it works best with voice chat, and let's be honest, not everyone likes Nintendo's approach to voice chat, with the whole doing it by the phone and so forth. And also, if you like multiplayer, though, that certainly is great. I would have loved to see more single-player content that would have been nice if they would have done something like that. But if you're a multiplayer fan, you like the multiplayer mode in Luigi's Mansion 3, it's worth keeping a look on it, though. According to this one, it points out that the whole thing cannot be available for individual purchases, but you could pre-purchase them right now in the Nintendo eShop. They're supposedly $9.99, $10, so maybe not bad for $10, though a little disappointing to see that you can't purchase them individually. You have to purchase them, I think they have to purchase them like together and all that stuff, kind of similar with Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, The Black Order. The other DLC from Nintendo has to do with the Nintendo eShop or indie game, the Cadence, Cadence of Hyrule. Again, I apologize for not saying the name correctly. That's getting the DLC, and the interesting about this one is that according to Nintendo, it's basically free. According to the article from Nintendo Life, it reads, excuse me, Nintendo just dropped a brand new update for Cadence of Hyrule, Crypto of the Necrodancer, featuring The Legend of Zelda. The best news, it's free. And that's right, if you own the base game, you can go ahead and update the software to receive the Octavan, ODE, without having to pay a single penny. It's a brand new storyline to play as we speak. According to Nintendo, they have the new storyline starring the game's villain attacking enemies using his golden loot and uncover his true intentions for taking over Hyrule. They also have a dungeon mode where you test your merits in this challenge new mode where you face the toughest foes. They point out that the new storyline in dungeon mode is only available after you complete the main story. But nevertheless, I mean, it's nice that they're giving away this DLC for free and so forth. And I will say, as far as DLCs go, Nintendo has done a pretty good job with it. There have been some occasions where not everyone has been happy with some of their choices, such as I think Fire Emblem Echoes, where they charge, I believe, $40 for a DLC for that one. So, yeah, but I will say for the most part, Nintendo has, at least in regards of DLCs, they've done a pretty good job with it so far. And finally, last but not least, the other DLC is that apparently we're getting more story DLC for the Outer Worlds, and it's scheduled to come out in 2020. In an article from GameSpot, it reads, quote, in a brief note on the Obsidian forum, though, one of the social media managers thanks the team behind the game and note that the honor of receiving 4 nominations at the Game Awards, which, while great, I personally would have loved to see them win an award and all that stuff. I think they do deserve to win an award for the game they put out, for the game they made, though. Though the post was made after Out of Outer Worlds went home empty-handed, the person said, even just being nominated means a lot. Then the message surged, SEGUED, into upcoming content, though. However, the journey isn't over yet, and we are excited to announce that we will be expanding the story through DLC next year. It reads, details will be made available at a later date. The note didn't mention platforms, but presumably will come to every platform simultaneously. PC, PS4, Xbox One, and possibly Nintendo Switch, though release timing on that platform port is still unannounced. So it's certainly nice that we're getting more DLCs for the Outer Worlds, and it's certainly nice it's going to be more story DLC, so I'm definitely looking forward to that, though. I do wonder what they're going to do in terms of stories for DLC. Is it going to be basically play any of the characters that any of your companions? Do they have stories or anything like that? Do we play as them and explore some of their stories in the Outer Worlds and all that stuff? Is it a brand new like a brand new adventure? Is it sort of a what if? Will there be stories where you could basically, I know this is in the Outer Worlds, but maybe perhaps romance any of your companions or characters? So again, I'm just throwing something out there. And I do want to know is that, will this DLC come to the Nintendo Switch? We all know that Outer Worlds is coming to the Nintendo Switch courtesy of Virtuos. They're handling the Switch port. Supposedly it will come out, supposedly they're saying early 2020 or something like that. We'll have to wait and see. But so I'm curious though, will it come out the DLC will come out before the Switch version comes out, or will it come out after the Switch version comes out? And if the DLCs come to the Nintendo Switch, how long will we have to wait in regards to the Switch version? So there's still some questions to be asked in regards to the DLC for the Outer Worlds, but nevertheless, I'm happy that they're working on more DLCs for it. I'm looking forward to seeing what the DLC is going to be about. So great that they're bringing in and all that stuff. And if you haven't played the Outer Worlds, I definitely recommend it. It is a fun game indeed. So overall, Nintendo's got 2 DLCs coming for 2 of their games, and Obsidian is bringing some DLCs to the Outer Worlds and all that stuff. Whether that appeals to you or not, that's going to be up to your opinion. And right there, it's going to be up to your opinion and whether you think it's a good thing or a bad thing. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to get to part 4. And this one has to do with several things in regards of the Star Wars license under EA. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 4 of our My 2 Cent video, and for this one has to do with several stories in regards of the Star Wars license under EA. Now, as far as that license has gone, though, it has not really been in a great spot. We've heard about all the issues with Star Wars Battlefront 2 and the controversy that's surrounded with the whole loot box and microtransactions and all that stuff. Excuse me, to cancellations of a lot of Star Wars games because, quote, the managers there don't think people don't want to purchase, narrative-driven games or single-player games, ignoring the fact that games like Mario Odyssey, Breath of the Wild, Null, Nier Automata, Horizon Zero Dawn, Sekiro Shadow Die Twice, which won Game of the Year, and all that stuff, that people don't want to buy those games, yet those games do sell very well, and so forth. So it basically has given the impression that EA has really mismanaged when it comes to the Star Wars license and all that. Well, it seems as though that despite the rough start that EA has had with the Star Wars license, it looks as though they are continuing to hold on to the license for the time being and all that stuff. And it looks like we might be seeing supposedly 2 games from them, at least in regards of any of the Star Wars games. We'll start off with the first one, and the first one has to do with supposedly a report from Game Radar that could suggest that we could be getting a sequel to Jedi Fallen Order, or as I like to call it, the best Star Wars game under EA. According to According to the article, it reads that, quote, a sequel to Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order could already be in the works at Respawn Entertainment, with 3 new jobs listing on the developer's website confirming that Apex Legends Studio is creating a new game set in a universe far, far away. Those postings for a senior character art, level design, and senior software engineer reveal that Respawn's Star Wars team is working on a third-person action-adventure game, a description that fits the same gene that Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order comfortably sits in. While the vacancies don't outright confirm that this new project is a direct sequel to Respawn's recently released Star Wars title, it wouldn't be a surprise if such a thing has already been greenlighted. The game broke sales records for publisher EA, and while Respawn's brand strategy director recently told Game Radar that the team would love to continue the story of Cal if it got the chance. EA itself holds the Disney Star Wars license for at least another 4 more years, with the possibility of the contract being renewed at a later date too, though recent controversy surrounding 2017 Star Wars Battlefront 2 has led to many questions whether the company deserves to retain those rights. I'm going to get to an article from VentureBeat in regards of basically on my response to that one in a minute, though, soon on that one though as well. But as far as a sequel to Jedi Fallen Order, I would have to say that I would not be surprised if we hear reports that a sequel is going to happen. After all, Jedi Fallen Order certainly sat well with critics and gamers out there. It certainly has sold very well and all that stuff. So it wouldn't be a surprise whatsoever if we hear a sequel to Jedi Fallen Order or another Star Wars game from Respawn Entertainment. They seem to do I think they seem to do what DICE couldn't do with the Battlefront games, to be exact. So it certainly is. So if this is true, and assuming this is true, I definitely would be open to a sequel to Jedi Fallen Order. Meanwhile, though, another studio by the name of EA Motive is supposedly making the next Star Wars game. They're saying that it could be very unique. This one comes from an article from a site called Tweaktown, TWEAK, and it reads, quote, EA Motive, MOTIVE, is preparing the next Star Wars game for a possible release in 2020, and it should be a departure from the current games on the market. While helping its sister studio like DICE with Battlefront and Visceral with the now canned Project Ragtag game, EA Motive Studio has been working on a new Star Wars games for years now. Motive's Montreal studios helmed the new project, and exact information has been pretty scarce, but they did get new tidbits from the general manager. And according to the general manager, Motive Montreal is making a very unique Star Wars experience. About how is it unique? Is it setting, tone, or story that's unique, or maybe gameplay mechanics? If it's the latter, we'll have built-in co-op, aimed with a rich, narrative-driven campaign that's not infused with live service microtransactions. Saying this will be actual departure for EA. Jedi Fallen Order single-player focus was a radical shift from EA's usual online-driven plus. The article also concludes that right now the article also says right now we have the following type of Star Wars game: live multiplayer shooters, single player only third-person Jedi power fantasy. It points out though, what if the two were merged together in a PvE style experience? Battlefront 2 could carry through 2020 with tie-ins and other content until the next big live game. It's also possible that EA Motive's new game had shades of Visceral's canceled Project Ragtag game, though. Motive was helping Viscerals with the project department the same way it helped DICE with Battlefront 2. EA Vancouver mostly cannibalized Project Ragtag for another canceled game. Of course, it writes so many cancellations, but it's possible Motive picked up some pieces along the way. After all, Ragtag was far into development before it was canned. EA Star Wars Game saga is littered with cancellation and twisted plots. In late 2016, EA said it wanted to release a new Star Wars game every year until 2020. Suffice to say, the plan didn't go over very well. Star Wars games have never been easy to develop thanks to Lucasfilm's purchase for scrutinizing even the smallest of details, but EA's missteps are the most recent examples. In 2017, EA disrupted the Star Wars timeline by closing down Aulx Studio and canceling their ambitious bounty hunter Star Wars games and all that. So as far as what EA Motive could be working on, I am interested somewhat to see what it is, to be exact, but also concerned at the same time. While for every Jedi Fallen Order, we've also had Battlefront 2 to be exact. So what makes it both interesting and yet worrisome at the same time is this going to be another attempt to try to turn it into a live service? Is it just going to be an always online game? Is EA going to put their crummy hands on it and try to force microtransactions into it? So there's some concerns about it, though. Right now we don't have any details about what the game looks like or what's it going to be, so it's too early to say at this time. So it's both interesting to see what kind of game they're working on. At the same time, there's also worried about being that this is EA we're talking about. There's concerns that they might put their crummy, greedy little hands on this and ruin it, like we've seen with other games in the Star Wars games under EA's name, to be exact. And then last but not least, I do want to talk about an article from VentureBeat in which it titles, quote, that to me it says EA has earned the Star Wars license. Now I'm going to read a little bit of it, though. You can check out the article in the link description down below and read it yourself. But here's what it says. Quote, here's what some of it says. Quote, it has taken more than 6 years, but Electronic Arts has finally proved itself worthy of the Star Wars video game license. The company only shipped 3 games since making the deal in May 2013. But after a humble experience with Battlefront 2, it has spent years turning that game around with tons of content for the entire saga, and then it released one of the best games of the year in Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. So the publisher is in a good place when it comes to Star Wars games. Now, I'm not saying that another publisher could make a better Star Wars game, and I'm not implying that we wouldn't get better games if Disney worked with multiple developers on varieties of projects. Oh, and this has nothing to do with whether or not EA and Disney have made enough money to justify the deal. Speaking strictly as a Star Wars fan, I think EA has earned the stewardship of the franchise. Now, you can read the rest of the article if you want to, but I would have to say after reading it, though, I respectfully disagree with that article, though. Given EA's reputation and so forth, I don't agree with that, though. Just because Battlefront 2 is in a better position and Jedi Fallen Order happens to be the best Star Wars game since under EA and all that stuff, doesn't justify EA should have the rights to the Star Wars license itself. We've seen how they've handled the Star Wars license so far. I mean, look how they handled Battlefront with a little to no content, multiplayer only, and then charge $50 for a season pass with little to no content. We already heard about what happened with Battlefront 2 and EA's push on the loot box, which caused major backlash and all that stuff, and forced Disney to call EA to tell them to remove the microtransaction, which, as a side note, I want to say, I bet you had there been no controversy, I don't think Bob Iger would have called the head of EA, Andrew Wilson, and tell him to remove the microtransactions from Star Wars Battlefront 2 had there been no controversy whatsoever. Again, that's my opinion. I know some will disagree, but that's where I stand on that one, to be exact. The fact that we've had several canceled games, and the fact that they don't think single-player games were important until Jedi Fallen Order has come out and all that stuff, I just don't think EA deserves the Star Wars license. Or better yet, I think Disney would have been better to have other developers work on the license. I mean, look how the Marvel video game license has been handled, at least so far, though. I mean, yes, we've had, I think, the Avengers one, at least under Ubisoft for the Wii U, and I think using the Kinect and all that stuff. But we've also had games like the Spider-Man one from Sony and Insomniac Games. We've also had Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, The Black Order from Nintendo, courtesy of Team Ninja, Koei Tecmo, and Omega Force to be exact. So I think spreading the license out and having other developers work on it would be a better choice than what Disney has done with the Star Wars license and letting EA handle it. And given EA's reputation, though, I don't think they should have the license entirely. Though I personally, if I was in charge of Disney, or personally, excuse me, if I was advising Bob Iger or anybody over at Lucasfilms or anything like that, I personally would call for them to reevaluate the license, because I personally don't think EA deserves the Star Wars license, given how they have handled the license, though. Yes, don't get me wrong, I think Jedi Fallen Order is a good game, but the fact that it took, and I know I'm beating a dead horse in saying this, though, the fact that it took them this long to put out a good Star Wars game is utterly ridiculous. Let's also not forget the rumors about how Andrew Wilson did not want the Star Wars license at all, and all that stuff. So there have been many issues. So I would have to say, in regards of VentureBeat's article, I strongly disagree with that. I don't think EA deserves the Star Wars license, though. I think Disney would be better off if they just license it out to developers that show that they care about the license and do a good job with it, like they did with the Marvel license with games like Spider-Man and Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. So overall, if a sequel of Jedi Fallen Order is happening, I think that's good. Hopefully EA doesn't put their grummy hands on it and let Respawn actually deliver a good game. As far as the next Star Wars game being unique or anything like that, we don't know about the information or anything like that. I hope it turns out to be good, but knowing this is EA, there's always have to be very careful about this, though. And last but not least, I strongly disagree with VentureBeat's article, though. I don't think EA deserves the Star Wars license, and I think Disney would be better off just licensing and looking at other developers handling the Star Wars license in general. I think the license has potential, and there are developers that could probably produce a good game, but just having EA alone handling it, though, I personally still view it, as much as I like Jedi Fallen Order, I still view it as a big mistake on Disney's part. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to get to part 5. And this one has to do with a comment Henry Cavill, if I'm saying his name correctly, made in regards of the fandom or the fan base in general. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with our 5th and final part of our My 2 Cent video. And this one is, well, I would say it's somewhat gamer related to a certain degree, but it has to do with, in general, the fandom. And this has to do with a comment Henry Cavill recently made in regards of the fandom in general. Now, if you don't know who the actor is, majority of us will remember him as his time playing Clark Kent, Superman, in the Man of Steel movie, and of course in Batman v Superman and Justice League. And while I enjoyed Man of Steel and I thought it was a good movie, it didn't become the success that it was supposed to be, that Warner Brothers was hoping for, and it's unclear if he'll return to play the Superman character again or not. I mean, there have been reports that WB may be looking at another actor to take his place or something like that, but we'll have to wait and see, though. And it's a shame because I really liked him as Clark Kent and so forth. He's also been in, I think, Mission Impossible Ghost Recon Protocol, if I'm saying the name correctly, and he's also starred in, I believe, it's either Showtime or HBO, I'm not 100% sure. He was in The Tudors, and recently he's starring in the Netflix adaptation of The Witcher and all that stuff, which is supposedly be more based off the books, not the video game from CD Projekt Red. It is a series I will be taking a look at on Netflix as soon as I'm done with The Mandalorian and so forth. But there was a comment that Henry Cavill said that kind of caught my attention, and this has to do with the fandom, and that includes, what he feels about in regards of the term, fandom being toxic and so forth. And he said this in an article picked up by We Got This Covered, and here's what the article reads. Quote, a little bit of what it reads. It says, taking on a beloved character in pop culture is a stressful job for an actor, as Henry Cavill, again I apologize if I'm not saying his name correctly, is no stranger to this conversation. After portraying Superman in the DCEU, the actor will now take up the mantle of Geralt in The Witcher to roam the world of the Northern Kingdom as a monster hunter. Fans have had mixed reactions ever since the Man of Steel was announced as the actor who portrayed Geralt in the Netflix live-action adaptation. While many loved the casting decision, others were skeptic of Cavill's capability to play the hero, as some even refused to admit any resemblance of the character whatsoever. After all, The Witcher is an important fantasy series in Europe with a devoted fan base that had grown over several decades, and the popularity of CD Projekt Red's trilogy of games had turned into a global recognized franchise. But Henry Cavill knew this when he signed up for the job. In a new interview, the actor addressed the topic of toxic fandom and noticed that the matter is much simpler than many thinks. And this is what he had to say. Quote, I understand what you're saying, but when it comes to fans, it is a fan's right to have whatever opinion they want to have, he explained. And people are going to be upset, especially when you're talking about books or games, because you're never going to be the exact person who they have in their head or who they played on The Witcher 3, for example. I don't necessarily consider that toxic. I just consider it that passionate, and sometimes, and it's sometimes which have obviously have come to terms with over the years. So I do have to say, after reading the comment and so forth, I do have to say that I think he's somewhat right to a certain extent, though. I mean, talking about how, like, fans being passionate about it, or like not pleased with the decision and all that stuff. I mean, that isn't necessarily a bad thing. And there are times when fans being passionate about something that they don't agree with the studio taking it towards isn't always necessarily a bad thing. Look at, say, the first design of Sonic the Hedgehog for basically the upcoming Sonic the Hedgehog movie, though. Fans spoke out against it, though, and honestly, I kind of have to agree with the fans. It looked terrible and all that stuff, and Paramount really took a look at it, went back to the drawing board, and actually fixed it, and Sonic looks a lot better. To even fans passionately speaking out against EA when they tried to pull the microtransactions in Star Wars Battlefront 2, and fans really spoke out about that indeed, and I've mentioned that before many times. So I have to say he is somewhat right that fans being passionate about something, though, isn't necessarily a bad thing, and not all fans being passionate about something is considered toxic in any way. That said, though, while I don't disagree with fans being passionate about something, I do think that there are times when sometimes fans being passionate about something can lead to toxicity and become extremely toxic. And we've seen this happen before. I mean, we've seen fans when The Last Jedi came out, some even went as far as harassing one of the actresses as well. We've seen the situation with Ghostbusters Answer the Call, or Ghostbusters 2016, which I'm not saying you have to like that film or anything like that. Whether you like it or not, that's your opinion or your opinion alone. But some fans, not all, but some took it to the extreme of harassing people and all that stuff. So to me, there is a certain degree where the fandom can get a little bit too toxic. I mean, or fans being passionate about something can be a little bit, well, extreme in a way. So I have to say, in regards of Henry Cavill's comments about this, though, I have to say he's not wrong. There's nothing wrong with fans being passionate, and sometimes that passion can be a good thing. But there are certainly times when fans can be a little too passionate and take it to the extreme, such as harassment or belittle, or even going as far as making a threat and all that stuff. So my overall takeaway is that I don't think Henry Cavill is wrong about his statement. I don't disagree with what he is saying, though, but I think though that while the fandom and fans being passionate about something can be a good thing, there's a time when it can be a bad thing, and where some fans can take it a little too far and be to the level of being a little too toxic, and that can be in my view, a very negative thing. Okay, this concludes this My 2 Cent video for this week. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about Zombie Army Trilogy coming to the Nintendo Switch? Are you looking forward to picking that game up? Did you enjoy it on the PS4? Are you planning to pick it up onto the Nintendo Switch? Are you looking to play that while you wait for Zombie Army 4 to be exact? What are your thoughts about the comments in regards of the 1 terabyte micro SD card issue for the Nintendo Switch? Do you think it's as widespread, or do you think some people are blowing it out of proportion, or do you don't think it's as widespread as people think it makes it sound like? Excuse me. What are your thoughts about some of the DLCs coming up for several upcoming games? Are you glad that Luigi's Mansion 3 is getting DLCs, multiplayer type DLCs, or would you prefer them to do, say, like a story DLC? What about the Citadels of Hyrule getting a free DLC? Are you looking forward to picking that one up? And what about the Outer Worlds getting some DLCs as well? Are you looking forward for that one too? What are your thoughts about EA, the Star Wars license on EA with some of these announcements? Do you think that a sequel of Jedi Fallen Order is in the works? And if so, would you pick that up, to be exact? What are your thoughts about EA Motives talking about their next Star Wars game being unique? Do you think that can be a good thing? Do you think that could be a bad thing? And what are your thoughts about Ventures Beat's article about EA earning the Star Wars license? Do you think they have earned the Star Wars license, or do you don't think they have earned the Star Wars license at all? And finally, what do you think about Henry Cavill, who's playing whose new show, The Witcher, on Netflix? What do you thought about his comments about the fandom in general? Do you think he's right that the fans being passionate about something can be a good thing? Do you think it's wrong? Do you think it could be, sometimes it could be a negative thing? Do you think it's a mixture of both? Do you agree with what he said? Do you disagree with what he says? Or do you agree with what I said in this video? Do you disagree with what I said in this video? Do you have a difference of opinion? As always, sound off on the comment section below. Let me know what you think. And I hope you hit that like button. I would appreciate it. And I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do, make sure you hit the bell icon for notifications of any new videos I put up. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to. And feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You could do it through PayPal me or Patreon. The links will be in the description of this video. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that'll be soon. Until then, from Southern California, I wish you all a good day then.